Hello, everybody. Welcome to Telli Talks, where we talk about life, growth, relationships, and all things in between. I have a very special woman here today. She is the founder and CEO of Ladylike Foundation, Leah Pump. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers to our water, our
Cheers,
healthy
water, yes.
water and Sprite.
Water and Sprite.
Love it. So, for the people that don't know your journey, tell us how you got to where you are today.
Wow. Gosh, it's a long journey, and I've never expected what it turned out to be, I should say. I was raised in a very, very strict, conservative Christian family. My parents were Sunday school teachers, like Sunday school directors. My grandmother was the director of the entire Sunday school. Very conservative. It wasn't, are you going to college? It's where are you going to college?
Right.
At church 2 to 3 times a week. Sundays was not even a question. You're there. My brother and I were president of the children's choir, the youth choir, the community service group. I have no problems serving the homeless or going down to Skid Row. That's what we did. That's just was expected. And my parents kept a really tight rope on me. Couldn't do anything really much. My whole schedule was bombarded with after school activities such as tutoring, piano lessons, theater arts. They didn't really let me hang out like my friends could hang out, or I couldn't talk to boys on the phone until I was 13. I couldn't go on a date till I was 17, and so.
How was that?
It was horrible. I hated it.
That was like my dad. He was like, you can't pierce your ears. And you didn't.
I know.
You weren't rebellious throughout the process.
No.
I felt like growing up too, I never wanted to disappoint my parents.
Me too.
And that was my thing, because I'm like, I know they love me and I know they're doing it for the betterment of myself.
Right.
And mentally that was instilled in me as well too. But it's almost like I want to be a kid. I want to do the things that everyone else is doing.
Exactly. So I had to sneak and do everything.
Right.
Literally sneak and do everything. Tell my parents I'm spending the night here. And even though it's so funny because it's like God had his hand on me all those times. I would be setting up this whole little plan and then it would not work out. So I couldn't do it. But so they were so strict. I mean, my dad was a very present dad, very hands-on. But you know how sometimes dads, in their past lives are kind of terrible.
Yeah. So they want to make up for, yes.
They project every single thing that they would have done or did onto their daughters.
Yes.
Right. So I knew I was his princess. I knew he loved me so much.
Yes.
But some of his expectations were just too much,
Right.
But I still respected it. I was a good girl. I got great grades. I was the president of everything from middle school, student body president in high school, always making speeches, always having meetings, I've been very diverse because in order to be president, I understand, politics, you have to know and be good with everybody. So I would hang out, with the black people, then I hang out on the quad with the Latinos, I've hang out with the Asians, I figured out how to win,
to be resilient in everything that you do.
Yes. So, so it was great. They had excellent expectations. Everything was excellent from the way you kept your room to the way you presented yourself and talked. My dad was a speech professor. So my brother and I had to speak super perfect English. And if we didn't, we had to say it again. No, say it again. No, say it again.
Right.
They gave us great values, saying thank you, which was drilled into our heads. You have to say thank you. Did you say thank you? Go back and say thank you. Or don't come to someone's house empty-handed. So I'm like, oh, what do I bring? So it's kind of that type of strict parenting. But it was good parenting because it trained me for life. However, it made me very rebellious in that I wanted to be so free.
Absolutely.
And I felt like I wasn't bad. I wasn't on drugs or, I wasn't having sex like that, with my friends,
Right.
And so I felt why am I punished for doing good?
Right. And you looked at it as a punishment, instead of a raising of betterment of morals and standards and goals.
Right. Because they didn't tell me why.
Right. why they were doing this teaching.
Right. They said, it's because I said so. Like, can I go to homecoming? Homecoming is something that everybody's going to.
Yes.
Everybody's going to homecoming.
Yes.
So my dad's like, oh no.
Where is your dad originally from?
Chicago.
Okay.
Very strict. He was raised Church of God in Christ. Church of God in Christ is a denomination that's not now, but then it was very strict. Like no makeup. You know, his mom didn't wear any makeup and no secular music or anything that was like. So even though he was an Hollywood actor and he came to LA to pursue his dreams, he still had those like strict religious ingrained in his head. So he projected it onto us. So when I went to college, I went away. I went to Berkeley. I went to UC Berkeley, and I said, I am not going to church. Like, so I am going to sleep in on a Sunday for once.
Right.
I am going to hang out. I am going to spend the night wherever I want to spend the night. You know, because my parents wouldn't let me spend the night at places unless they knew the parents, knew the house, knew the neighborhood. Like, it had to be almost
or a family member.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you were not spending the night. It's not no random slumber party. No.
Right.
So when I got there, I did. I lived it up. I partied. I was very serious about my schoolwork because it was very rigorous at Berkeley. Like you couldn't like play around. Like it's a big deal there. Like you have to do well. But I was serious about hanging out too. So I would hang out and then I'd stay up all night long doing my papers. Well, anyway, my dad would call me every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. He'd call and he'd say, what church are you going to? Now, when you're a freshman, you don't have a car. You know, I'm from LA. There's no public transportation nowhere. We don't we don't take the bus.
Right.
We're not a cab. We have cars here, you know?
Right.
So there's no Ubers back then. This is like 2000. This is like 1997, 98, 99, 2000. So I'm like, Dad, I'm not going to church. Like, Dad, I don't even have a car. Like,
how am I going to get to church?
Hitchhike to church or something? It doesn't matter. You need to find, somebody to take
There's a will, there's a way.
I mean, you do everything else. You know, that's how he talks. You do everything else. So why don't you find a ride to church?
Right.
And so every Sunday, 6:00 on the dot. Where are you going today? What Sunday? What church you going today? You know, I'm like, Dad, I'm like barely waking up. Like after partying all night, like, hello. Dad, okay. Just saying whatever he want.
Right.
Whatever to make him happy.
Right.
But anyway, one particular Sunday, he goes, I want you to go to this church that, the preacher comes to our church every year at the same time every year. And he's young. He looks like he's spunky and, he's relevant. And I'm sure you would like him. And so my girlfriend that I grew up with, that went to our church, her parents were pressuring her as well. She was a junior at the time. She had a car to go to church. Mm-hmm. Not that church, but just anybody's church. And so anyway, she was like, you know what? Let's just make our parents happy and just go to church, to the young pastor's church. And he happened to be very, very fine. He was fine. I mean, he was. In fact, I remember when I was 16 years old, he was preaching. And I said a prayer like, Lord, please let him wait for me. Like, just crazy. But anyway, so we go to the church, and to make a long story short, he ends up being very, very friendly to us. And kind of trying to gain our trust. So from taking us out to dinners to telling the pastor telling us whatever we needed, he would, give to us, like computers back then. Like computers are like, everybody has a computer right now. But back then you didn't have a computer. Like I would be doing my papers in like the computer lab, like staying up all night. He got me a computer, I didn't have a car. And so he became so friendly and so kind to me. My grandmother is my best friend in the world. I adore her. And I told him that was like my grandmother. He got close to my grandmother and they together got together and got me a car. Like things of that sort. When I was moving into my apartment after leaving the dorms, he found the apartment and furnished it all. Like everything that I ever wanted or hoped for.
Right.
This man was fulfilling. Not, and I was falling in love with him. He was 17 years older than me. He's 35 and I was 18 years old. And I was in love with him. And the things that he was doing for me was blowing my mind. I mean, even sexually, like you don't have real sex.
Right.
when you're in high school or college.
Right.
But when you or with a man, it's like the people in college they can't do nothing for you.
Right.
Like my friends have been going through all these gyrations. I'm like, girl, I have a man. Like I have a man.
Right.
And so I fell in love with him and I just started dating him. And I became like a first lady overnight. Like I was like anything to make him be pleased with me. I'd do anything. Right. So one day he told me that he would marry me if I graduated from college. When I graduated from college.
And at this time you were 18,
a freshman.
19. Oh.
I was 18.
You're 18.
I was 18. And
your parents didn't know?
No. They did not know anything about this. This is like
right.
a little secret, which made it really good, too.
Right.
The only person that knew was my grandmother. Mm-hmm. And she liked it, too, because the history of our family is the man is always much older than the wife. Got so my dad's parents were 20 years apart. My mom's parents were 9 years apart. My parents are 9 years apart. So him being older wasn't really a big deal for her. Right. Her thing was, I want somebody to take care of her.
Right.
Like, I want somebody to be my eyes, my ears, to take care of Leah.
Right. And she knew him, so it was
right. And so she felt like she could trust him, too.
Right.
And so when he said that he was going to marry me, I took it seriously.
Right.
So I took 22 units per semester, 13 units in the summer to graduate in 3 years so that he could marry me.
Wow.
In order for him to not marry me. So.
Man.
I mean, I worked my butt off. I remember to this day, like when I think about it, because now that I mentor girls, I'm like, how did I do that? Like I literally worked my fingers to the bone because I wanted him to marry me. Right. I don't like playing the field. I don't.
And what was
like
his
that.
reasoning to not marry you after you graduate? Did he not think you were going to graduate? Did he think you were going to be like infatuated with what he was presenting to you? Like, what was his reasoning behind?
He's a player. I mean, he took the innocence in me.
Right.
And he knew.
Yes.
He's a master. He's a master at it. Like, he knew exactly. It's like he studied me to see what it was that could make me do what he wanted me to do. He basically trained me in everything. He trained me the way I looked. He trained the way, I mean, he was like an impeccable, he is or was at the time an impeccable dresser. Mm-hmm. He loved fashion and style. And so at 18, he was like dressing me and telling me what to wear and what not to wear and how to wear your hair, and your makeup should always be perfect, and we would be at a dinner table and he would go like this, like, and that means put your lipstick back on. And so I'd be like, excuse me, put my lipstick back on. I was grown. Like, I was a grown woman at 18 years old wearing St. John's suits, Excata. He laced me with all types of jewelry, from tennis bracelets to diamond watches to diamond earrings. And this is 18. My parents did not put focus in stuff like that. My parents put focus, my whole family put focus in property. So they saved money to get property. Right. That's how they built family wealth. Generational wealth was through property. And so buying bags and shoes, that's just not their deal. You know what I mean? But then I liked it. I liked bag, shoes, clothes, jewelry. I feel like you can have it all, property and that. I feel like you can have it all.
Absolutely.
But they didn't think like that. So I wasn't used to that. So he was giving it to me. Like one day I remember I had to borrow some earrings from my roommate to go on a date with him. And he was like, what earrings are those? I was like, I just borrowed them. I just needed something. He's like, you don't have any earrings? And I was like, well, I have a pair, And the next day he came and like with like a jewelry bag from one of the famous jewelry stores, either like David's or one of those places. Yeah, I remember. With like all these diamond earrings, diamond hoops. Like, oh, this is what you wear. This is your classy. This is your casual. This is all. I mean, he was like teaching me, like grooming me, to be what he wanted me to be, and to string me along for however long he was going to string me along for. Even sexually teaching me, no, you don't do it like this, you do it like this. Oh, no, do it again. I mean, very patient, a teacher. And I looked up to him, and I truly, truly admired him, to be honest. He helped with everything. And so I was like, this is my dream. This is somebody who I love to spend my life with. So, but the reason why he didn't marry me is because he had a whole nother life. He had a whole family that he was living with that I didn't even know about. children and a woman. He wasn't married to her, but he'd been living with her for over 20 years. Like, I mean, and the way I found out about it is I always love older people. I adore them. Like, I could go to a senior citizen's home and be great. Like, I find my little crew, we talk, and they tell me the cooking stuff, perfumes, or, I love it. The wisdom behind it. I love it.
Right.
And so I got close to the older women at the church, and particularly one lady. And so one weekend, I couldn't find him. Because he would do that often. Like, he would call. And then he would disappear. I couldn't find him, especially at night. I couldn't find him at night. And I would wonder why I couldn't go to his house. And he was like, oh, no, women don't go to gentlemen's houses. Gentlemen come to women's houses. Like, and me being so young. I'm
right, and not knowing. Right.
I'm like, yeah. Now I'd be like, girl, he's lying to you.
Right.
But back then, I never had a real boyfriend. So this is all like
new.
So she told me one day, I was like, I haven't heard from him. Have you heard from him? Because he was close to her.
And nobody knew that you guys were dating in the church.
Some people, but some people didn't.
Right.
And he always was like, I'm a private person.
Right.
And he would also train me like how to be at church. Like,
right.
Be the best dressed, but I want you to leave. As soon as church is over, I want you to leave. Don't hang out. Right. Don't wait for me. I will call you. And I would do exactly what he said. And sometimes he would never call. Things of that sort. Mm-hmm. But it was just because he had other things going on and he didn't want me to be privy to it or to see it.
Right.
So anyway, so she told me he had a whole other family. That's why I can't go to the house. Like, and I was like, but I was too invested by this time. This was like 3 years in. And
so what did you do?
I loved him. I just was like, he's not married. My whole justification was he's not married.
Right.
Which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter. Like,
right.
If someone has a girlfriend or someone is in a relationship, they're in a relationship, period.
Right.
Like, that's it.
Right.
You shouldn't even try to break into that.
Exactly.
You should wonder, why? Why is he doing this? Or what has he told her?
Right.
Or
what's the motive?
How is she? Is she okay? I'm not mad at her.
Right. It's not her that's doing
it's him.
Exactly.
It's this web. And it wasn't just her. I found out it was a whole bunch of women.
Oh, wow.
All at once.
Wow. And how was he funding, like, all these lifestyles?
I have absolutely no idea because he wasn't even rich. But he was like a master manipulator. He's a master at what he does. I mean, he doesn't even have he wouldn't even have any money. Like, and he would just figure out, I guess, how to max out his American Express card and get a woman or somebody that he was with to pay it off.
Oh, wow.
Like a master at it. And so, anyway, he didn't marry me, and I was devastated.
So you graduated.
I graduated,
and then how did the conversation come about? Where, hey, I'm done with school. I've rushed all my classes. I've taken this many credits at this point of time. How did that transition into the conversation of the time is now to get married?
I was just like, oh, he's gonna surprise me. Like, I'm always a positive person.
You're optimistic about the
I'm
situation.
very optimistic. I mean, not so much now. Now I'm a realist.
Right.
Like, I'm just like, this is what it is, and this is how we're gonna do it. And so at every point, as closer and closer to the date, I mean, my family ended up finding out through a mutual church person in LA, and my dad was furious and, made me break it off, and I, went through the whole
This is after you graduated?
No, this is before. They found out.
But you still were talking to him.
Oh, yeah, I didn't break it off.
Right.
And I was like, how would they know? I love him. All that the whole movie. How could you tell me that? Daddy, don't tell me that. And my dad's like, he's a player.
Yeah. Sounds like mine.
He's a womanizer. You're the only one that doesn't know it.
Yeah.
He has a terrible reputation. I'm like, but he's a preacher and he preaches.
Right. And you introduced me to him.
And you told me to go to his church.
Right.
Anyway, he was upset, but there was nothing you could do about it.
Right.
And the more he tried to get me away, the more I tried to stay.
Right.
And so that didn't work. But as the closer to the date of graduation, it wasn't happening. And I was like, okay, he's going to do it today. Didn't happen. Then he gets a U-Haul and he packs up my whole apartment. So I'm like, is he going to pack it up to move to a house that he bought? Like, I mean, just all these fantasies in my head. No, he was packing up for me to go home, back to LA. I went back to LA with nothing.
So he helped you leave. And he was like, oh, this is just someone I'm going to talk to while she's in college here.
But he was
at
like,
Berkeley.
no, I'm going to come get you.
So obviously you believed that he was going to come get you.
Well, at this point, the thing is it's 18 to 20 is a big jump.
Right.
So I'm growing up, like, all along. Even though he's not telling me things, I'm seeing things.
Right.
Even though he's not showing me, I'm running into the person he's living with in the grocery store. Like, just random things are happening, right?
Right.
And so my eyes are, like, slightly opening, but I love him.
Right.
And, like, love is blind. Like, you
right.
try to justify it. Oh, he said, oh, it's okay. He doesn't love her. Which is just idiotic. Like, not even a good way to think. And so I go home for 2 years. In those 2 years, I really grow up because I'm like, all right, he wasted my college years. I could have, joined a sorority. All my friends are still in school. They're getting out next year, I could have, had fun. I could have partied more. I could have gotten all the things that I wanted to do growing up out. Now I'm grown and waiting for this man to marry me. And I'm only 21 years old. Like, this is crazy. I get a teaching job. I start teaching and I really love it. And I start dating other people.
And the whole time you're in LA, did he contact you?
Oh, yeah. Contacted me, came out here, flew me out there. But still
so it was like
back.
he was dating, but it was nothing like towards marriage or like hinting towards, hey, this is going to be our situation.
Mm-hmm. But he would constantly say it. You're my wife. You're my wife. You're my wife. Like that those words that keep people hooked, hook, line, and sinker.
Right.
And so during those 2 years, I met somebody else who happened to be another pastor, but he was in Texas. And he was young, much younger than him. Same academic-wise, very good family like mine. And we just hit it off. And so it kind of gave me another look. Like, I'm like, okay, well, I am marketable. I am valuable. Like, there are other people that like me. Like, even if he never marries me, there's a bunch of people that I could, and I started dating a lot of people, different people, from the guy in Texas to just musicians and all kind of actors. And I mean, I'm in LA. I'm young.
Right.
I'm having a great time.
Right.
And so things start to get a little bit serious with the other pastor, and he hears of it through the grapevine. And I was like, if anybody wants to know how to get married quick, all you got to do is get somebody else. And let him hear about it.
Right.
Like,
hold on. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Right.
I had a ring in a month.
From the first pastor, not the second pastor.
One that
not Texas.
Not Texas.
Berkeley.
So
in a month you had a ring. And then what happened? So what did he say? What did he say when
he found out? He was like, how could you do this?
Right.
And I was like, and the way he manipulated situations, like, how could I do this? You live with the whole situation. This is, for me, I'm well within my rights. Like, I'm well within my rights.
Right.
And so anyway, I thought it was going to be done, over with. Like, the 5 years that I tried to be perfect and do everything to get him to marry me was over in like a week.
Right.
Shoot. He was like, I'm coming to LA. I'm like, okay. Like, he comes to LA. I was like, I really want to get married. And I'm looking like, the conversation that I've been trying to get out since I've been home since 1997. It's 2002 now. You're like, you're ready? And he literally proposes to me.
And what did you say?
And I said, yes. That's what I wanted all those years. And I told Texas that I was getting married.
So what did Texas do?
He was really upset.
And how long were you talking to Texas before
like,
Berkeley came back in the picture?
Maybe like 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
But it was like a fast 4 to 5 months. You know how,
to where it was progressing to where it's like,
where people were knowing. And he was in a way better financial and social situation than he was.
Right.
Like, nobody wanted me with him, but this seemed like a match. Fish. This is like a royalty, like a not, I was gonna say Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, but it was kind of like that. Like, people were like, okay, this is a match. Like, this is, and he knew that, and he was like, no. I gotta stop this. And he did. So then when he asked me to marry him, I wanted to get my master's degree in education, because in order to get money as a teacher, you gotta have
Higher education.
a higher education. You have to get a master's degree. So I applied to USC, UC Berkeley, and UCLA. Got into all three. But I only did Berkeley just in case he asked me to marry him. I would have, that to fall back on.
Right.
So Berkeley was starting in August, whereas UCLA and USC was a little later, right? Like I think UCLA was September. So I said, okay, so we need to get married in August so I can start school. And he was like, oh no, I didn't say that we were going to get married right away. And I was like, what?
Like,
he said, oh no,
you're
no.
wasting my time again.
Oh no, no. I was like, oh no. And then at this point, I'm, going, I'm like, no, we're going to get married.
Right.
We're getting married.
Right.
I'm not playing this game anymore. No. We're getting married on this date. And so it's okay, well, if you want that date, then I don't want to have anything to do with the wedding. I'll just show up.
And why didn't he want anything to do with the wedding? Like,
because he didn't want to get married, because he still had all these other situations that he didn't want to let go of.
Right. But it's like you were willing to show up for the wedding, but not engaged in the whole process of the wedding.
No.
So mentally, when he brought that up to you, how did you take that?
It was another step back, but I was like, fine, I'll do it myself. Because I've always been that one. Like, you don't have to just show up,
Right.
Okay, so what family members are you going to bring? None.
He said he wasn't bringing any.
None. I was like, so when are you going to tell your church? He had a really nice sized church. I'm not telling my church I'm getting married. So I'm like, And they know me.
Right.
All this time I was going to his church.
Right.
So
For years.
That's weird.
Right.
And he was like, yes, I don't want to have anything to do with it. So in the midst of this is May. He proposes in May. We're getting married in August. So it's like 3 months, right? In 3 months, I booked the Beverly Hills Hotel. I booked the Beverly Hills Presbyterian Hotel.
So it was, you were going to get married here.
Yes.
Not in Berkeley.
No.
Okay.
Here. And my parents spent over $100,000. This is in 2002. It's a lot of money back then.
Right.
Now it's like, that's like probably the average wedding right now. Thinking about everything,
gosh.
right? My parents were like,
I despised him already. I'm like, oh.
I mean, the wedding was beautiful. It was on a Friday night in LA, a summer night. It was by candlelight. It was with Casablanca lilies all down the aisle. Because I always wanted to get married. Like, I've been collecting wedding books since I was 6. I love bridal magazines. Like, I had them in a box, and I would go through them and say what I was going to wear, what my bridesmaids were going to wear. And I've always had that in my head. So I already knew. So him telling me he didn't want to have, I was like, cool.
I'm doing everything, and I want to do it the way I want to do
Absolutely.
it. Right.
And it was gorgeous. It was hands down one of the most beautiful weddings I've ever seen in my life. So the rehearsal dinner that night, he wasn't talking to my parents at all. And my parents had spent so much money.
Was this the first time he was meeting your parents
No,
face
he's
to
been
face?
seeing them, because all throughout, my dad was adamantly upset with him.
Right.
And my dad was very outspoken. And he would hear about it. And he was like, well, I don't like him. And, he can't say nothing to me. And my mom is, very quiet. And so it was a constant strain. So I never really had them in the same place.
Right.
Or if I did, it was like planes passing. Like, I wouldn't, because I didn't want any fights, or I didn't want any confrontation. I didn't want any of that, right? I want everybody to be happy. So he said nothing to them at the rehearsal dinner. Absolutely nothing. And my parents had paid for everything.
Wow. So he showed up
Yes.
to the rehearsal dinner. The actual wedding, how was that?
So the night before the wedding, after the rehearsal dinner, when he showed his ass, it was so bad and so embarrassing. Even my friends were like, why isn't he talking to anybody? Leah, I don't know about this. Because
And they knew him.
They knew him, but not really up there. I mean, my friends
They knew of him.
Yeah, my friends were into young guys. None
Right,
of my friends
right,
have
right.
ever been into older guys but me. None of them.
Right.
And so they were like, this is just, you know, your friends are like, this nigga right here.
They gonna judge.
Yeah.
They gonna judge.
He need to go somewhere. Especially one of my friends, she was like, this raggedy ass is right here. What is him doing? You know, like, he ain't even that cute. You know?
Right. It be the friends.
And so I didn't even pay attention. I was like, listen, tomorrow's my big day. I've been waiting for this. I've been working towards it. Because you think about it, school, I've been working my butt off to get to this point.
Right.
So I'm like, nothing is going to stop me. Well, that night before the wedding, he calls me. So I was like,
this is after the rehearsal.
After the rehearsal dinner, after the rehearsal dinner. This is at night. Now I had already gotten in a huge fight when I got home from the rehearsal dinner. Like my dad, I drove up in the driveway, and I think my dad saw the headlights. He was coming out. He was like, all I could see was this coming down the driveway. I was like, uh-oh. You know, and I was like, I can't believe this. You know, he didn't say nothing. You know, how can you marry somebody who's so disrespectful?
Right.
What is wrong with you? Are you crazy? And I'm like, I'm not crazy. You're crazy. You know,
right.
All of that. Getting in the house, and I get a call from him, and he goes, there's a couple things I want to run by you before we get married tomorrow. So I'm like, I'm thinking, like, what else can happen?
Right. Like, how much more do I have to deal with before I get married?
He says, number one, I'm going to be taking care of the woman that he's living with. I'm going to be taking care of her and her daughter for the rest of their lives. Can you handle that?
Was it his daughter?
No.
Wow.
But that's the only dad
that she ever knew. Right.
Can you handle that? I said, I mean, this is like 12 o'clock at night.
And it's like, I've already been dealing with this for X amount of years. I've been dealing with this.
Right. So, and he goes, and number two, I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm married to you until I'm ready. Can you handle that? So the next day was 400 guests, over 400 guests. None of his family members. None of his church members except for like his head of deacons and his wife. I picked all of the groomsmen for him. I got the tuxedos. I did everything. So I was like, maybe he just has cold feet. When I think of the things that I would think in my head, I'm so mad at myself.
Like you would give excuses for him.
What is wrong with you? Hello. Like, you know better than this.
Right.
I was like, he just has cold feet. It's okay. We get married. It's beautiful. Doesn't say one thing to my parents. Not one. Doesn't even thank anybody. You know, you get up and do the speeches.
Right.
Doesn't say anything. And so my mom says that she thinks that he was trying to make me break it off because it would
make it easier for him.
Right. And he could say like, okay,
she
did it. Right. You know? And then he would save face.
Right.
But so when she psychoanalyzed him, because that's what she does.
Right.
She's like, hell no.
Right.
He gonna do this.
Right.
We're not gonna give him the benefit. We're not gonna even let him look good in this situation.
Right.
Let him look bad.
Right.
So we get married. There's no social media, so no one. But people are taking the programs. Because remember, there's programs that now you don't have any programs, but it's like a program, with pictures and everything.
Right.
People are sending it back to Oakland, so that people know, like, no, he really did. He's lying.
Yeah,
like,
he got married.
He got married, right? He even made me get a confidential wedding license in Beverly Hills, and a confidential marriage license is no one could. You know, marriage licenses are public record,
right?
But when you get a confidential marriage license, no one can get the record.
Oh wow.
So he made me get that. And I was like, well, why are we getting a confidential one? He's like, oh, you know, celebrities get this. It's so people won't get in your business. So I'm just going along. My parents are dying at this point. My grandmother is losing all of her hair at this point. Like, she is like, this, I can't, you know? And so we moved to Oakland. I moved to Oakland, but the thing about it is that the condo that he had, the lady and her daughter were living in. He was not going to make them move out of it. And he didn't have enough money to get something else. So we were living in East Oakland in the top attic of his church. And his church was an old rundown theater that he turned into a church. It was a huge building. And we lived in like the light room, which was smaller than this room. That's where we lived. And it was rat infested. And it was the smallest quarters. And that's where he brought me after we got married, after the $100,000 wedding, after the UC Berkeley education, after all that my parents had invested in me. That's where he brought me to live. We lived in one room where our clothes, makeshift clothes, were hanging on both sides. And at night, I would hear the shoo, 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 shoo. I'm like, what is that? Oh, those are just the rats. They're probably under the bed eating, whatever crumbs.
And he was okay with staying there?
He was okay with it. He had absolutely no money. And I had no money too, because I forfeited USC and UCLA to be married to him. And Berkeley said that I could not attend until I passed the MSAT. And I had absolutely no time or the headspace to study for this MSAT. So I had to wait. So I had nothing. Wow. I had no money, no job, and I'm living in this place. Fast forward, it was awful. He introduced me as his friend. He never introduced me in front of his church until I left him in midway. Two months in, I left him. And I went back home. But then I went right back after 3 weeks, because he promised to do everything that he wasn't doing. And he still kept all of his relationships.
How long was this entire process of you being with him, the back and forth?
5.5 years.
Oof.
And it was really horrible. He never physically beat me, but he physically beat my mind. He physically tore me down. I mean, right. I was so insecure. I remember looking in the mirror and be like, I don't even know who this person is. I don't even know her. I mean, isolating from family, friends, and in the name of God. That type. When God would never put that on anybody. Right. Would never subject. I mean, I caught him in the bed with another woman. I caught him writing notes to women in church. It was before texting. So it was notes. Mm. I mean, a fraud. We would be so broke. All he cared about was clothes. So we would be the best dressed broke people. We would eat off of one plate. It was just horrific.
So what triggered your mind to be like, I gotta get out of this situation after you guys were married, knowing your living conditions, knowing what he was continuing doing, when you went back home and came back? What was your okay, I gotta leave, and I gotta leave for good?
Well, when I came back the first time, he bought a house. He has a lot of property all over California. So what he did was he got seconds on all of the property so he can have enough cash for a down payment. So he gets this beautiful house in Montclair, but he puts my name on it only. So just in case I decide to leave, I have this property in my name that I have nothing.
Right.
But because I'm 22, I have no credit. So he has a long history of bad credit. Right. The second thing is all the utilities were in my name. So he did do that. He did get me out of the church, but he put me in a position where I'd be in debt forever. At least $50,000 in debt from a $680,000 house at the time, which was a lot of money back then. All the utilities in my name, kind of trapping me.
Right.
And then saying, you made me do this. You made me marry you. I married you to save my ministry. I married you to save face.
And how is marrying me saving your ministry?
The master manipulative mind games. And where he was so good, I'd be thinking did I do that?
Right. To where you're questioning yourself.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right. No, absolutely.
This person is amazing at this. I remember my mom, I was at my grandmother's house the first time I left, and my grandmother, she had this big file like this at the breakfast table, and she put it down. She says, baby, I don't want to get in your business, but I got to tell you who you're married to. And it was files and files of all the fraudulent things he'd done, court cases, time spent in jail, different names that he'd used.
Oh, wow.
And even that didn't make me leave.
So what was the moment of like...
So from all the fights, all the stuff, and I always tell my friends, it's not going to be the big stuff that makes you get it. It's when you've had enough.
Right.
That's it.
Absolutely.
It's nothing. It's nothing you can pinpoint. It's just you've had enough.
Right.
And so I got to the point where I had had enough, and I was miserable and depressed, and
you never went back to school.
I never went back. I didn't have a job. So every day he'd be out doing what he wanted to do, out with whoever he wanted to be out with. And I would be either at home or walking around malls and stuff like that, but not being able to pay for anything.
Right.
Stuff like that. And after church, instead of being with me, he would force me on the older couples. So I would stay there because it was always 2 services, the morning service and the night service. So between services, while he could do his thing in his office, I would be at one of the older members' houses waiting for him to call me. It would just be, so I'm just like, I've had enough. Like, I remember one day I just woke up and I was like, Lord, I said, I repent. Because it's not like I went in here blind. You gave me sign after sign after sign. It was me. So I want to tell you, I'm sorry.
Right.
I totally was disobedient to you, my parents, to sound advice. I said, so Lord, I repent. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I said, but in order for you to allow me to move forward, I said, you have to show me what my life would be like without him.
Right.
Because even though I know that this is not a good thing for me, that's all I know.
Right.
And I love him.
Right.
And you got to show me, because if you don't show me, I'm gonna be here forever, and I'm gonna go in a crazy house.
Right.
So I asked the Lord, show me 2 things. Show me what my life would be like the rest of my life with him, and show me what my life would be like without him.
Right.
And I'm begging. I'm fasting. I'm not eating anything. I'm fasting. I'm literally serious about this because it's time to make a change.
Absolutely.
So after 3 weeks, the Lord gave me a dream, and in the dream, I saw myself on a roller coaster, and I was like out of control, going super fast, and I'm screaming my head off, and I'm saying, I want to get off, I want to get off, and it wouldn't stop. He's like, this is what your life is going to be like if you stay a roller coaster. You're never going to get relief. You're never going to be able to get off. You're never going to get yourself back. This is what it is. And I said, well, Lord, I want to get off. But before I get off, I need you to show me what my life would be like without him. So 3 weeks went by again, and the Lord gave me the word relief. And I'll restore back to you everything you lost. And I mean, from the degrees, from the property that he just put in my name that I had, just everything, the relationships, friendships, my self-esteem, my self-worth and value, that he would give it back to me. I said, well, Lord, I'm ready to go. So one day I told him, because he's really, really crazy. And the thing about it is as soon as I made my, abusers are really, 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 they're very, very wise, and they're very discerning in an evil way. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And they know when the tide has changed. Mm-hmm. And so
they can sense
it's something. You don't have to change behaviors at all. Right. And I tried to really stay the same, but in my mind, I was gone.
Right.
And so it seemed like as soon as I made the decision to leave, he wouldn't let me out of his sight.
And how long did that process?
Well, that process was very long, because I really feel like the devil was involved in it, because I get pregnant. And because I didn't want to stop. I wanted to be like, I wanted to stay the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't want to say I'm not, because that was going to be a sign that I was out. And he was crazy. So I didn't want, so I had to keep acting like a good wife. So I get pregnant. Because every time.
This is when you were already ready to leave.
Yes. So I don't know if I was, and the signs started happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because my plan was to leave while he went to church. We never went to church together, because remember, he didn't want people to know we were together. Right. So he would go first, and I would wait and wait and wait, and then I'd go, right? And so I was like, okay, I'll just leave when he goes to church. I'll just pack my stuff up. Because when we moved to the house, I never unpacked my stuff. My stuff kind of stayed in boxes. And so but every time he would go to church, he'd be like, yeah, Sister such and such wants you to pick her up today on your way to church. And I'm like, what?
And why?
And the daughter who, and it's so, because I love young girls. I love teenage girls. They like, it's like a connection.
Right.
His daughter, that's not his daughter, but is his daughter that all she knows.
Right.
She began to love me. And so we became really, really close. Like I'd pick her up from school and take her and her friends to get something to eat, and we play hair parties and makeup parties, and he was like, Gabby wants you to pick her up for church. It was as soon as I'm like, good, getting ready, like have my stuff all together, so all I had to do is just run and put it in my car. Ride with me today. I mean, it was just and I wouldn't.
Everything was a shift.
It was a shift. And then when I got pregnant, it was like he didn't want me to lose the baby. So I bled throughout the pregnancy. He was at every doctor's. This is a person that didn't want to have anything to do with me. This is a person
right that was manipulating through life
everything.
Right.
Every doctor's appointment, sonograms.
So so the shift happened. The change happened. You got pregnant. So throughout this process, when did you didn't have the baby?
No, I lost the baby.
You lost the baby.
Which I was so happy about.
When you lost the baby, did he go back to his old ways?
No.
Did he still, he was on you more because you lost the baby and he knew you were ready to leave?
No, I said, I want to go home to see my parents.
Mm-hmm. And you never came back.
And I never came back.
Oh, my goodness.
Because for him, it was a good play because I had been through so much. He's like, I know I put you through so much.
Right.
I mean, that's probably why you lost the baby.
Right.
That's probably why you've been stressed out.
So it was a perfect time.
It was perfect. And he's like, well, when do you think you're coming back? I was like, I don't know.
Right.
He's like, I understand. Well, how much do you want to take? I said, I want to take everything.
Right.
Are you sure? I want to take everything. He helped me pack the clothes in the car. Help me pack. I was fine. I was just acting like I was crying too. He was crying. I was crying. Cause I mean,
it hurts.
This was a process that was over.
Right.
And I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was a Monday. I mean, he'd already told the church that he was married to me. He told the church. I mean, and the thing about it, the crazy thing about him is that the church loved me so much. Like all this time he was hiding me, they already knew it.
Right.
They were just waiting for him to come out with it. And when he came out with it, we were struggling so much. His salary went up. His love offering went up. They sent us on a trip. I mean, it was just like, he was like, man, I didn't even know. I'm thinking like, what? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, that was over because I was going home.
So was this the transition of like how you started the Ladylike Foundation?
Yes. So all of these things that I told you, think about it, is everything that I teach.
Right.
Because even when I get home, there's a whole lot that I have to do. I have to get I have to get divorced.
Right.
Right. I have to get the property out of my name. I have to get myself back. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I have to do a lot of self-care and therapy to understand why I made those decisions and how those are not healthy, and that the next situation, you can't do that again. And so all of those bad mistakes, it's like God turned it into a beautiful masterpiece that I use to tell others. Like there's a scripture that says, I've sat where they sat. So now every time I talk to a girl and she talks about an abusive relationship or a manipulative relationship or being broke or not having, I could talk directly to it. Right. He's probably saying this, huh? Because it's the same talk. Right. It's the same talk. No. And so, yeah, I use it in Ladylike. And people think that Ladylike is like crossing your legs and being appropriate. Like yes, etiquette. It is. Yes, it is. It is. That's one aspect of it. But it's the well-rounded person,
right?
And it's what you make out of it.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I push into the girls. So that's how I became that. But getting to that point was a very long time.
Oh, I can imagine.
I mean, it was 7 years though, and that's why I wrote a book called 7. It was 7 years from the point that I left to the point that I married my husband now. And so through that point, it was a lot of heartbreaks. It was a lot of being broke and my parents not helping me. Like, we've spent enough. It's enough.
Right.
I mean, I had 82 cents in my account, like, and I'm like, how 82 cents? Like,
How did I get here?
I can't pay for anything. I can't even pay rent. I can't even get gas. You know, things of that sort. And the Lord telling me, just trust me. Give me what you owe me, 10%. I'm like, 82 cents. If 10% of 82 cents is 8.2 cents, it's okay.
Right.
Give it to me. And after tithing and making that a priority, in a year, God made me a homeowner, a landlord, and a new job. I got my master's degree. I began being a teacher, then an administrator, then a principal, and then making this whole organization that I never thought would be what it is today. Just mentoring a few little girls in the class. The way it all got started was my pastor. I left the church where I was raised because the pastor had passed away, and that I loved dearly. And so, being married to a pastor, you get to meet a lot of pastors. And so in all those years, I met a couple that I fell in love with. And the pastor would speak it would like be right to me. He was academic, yet real.
Right.
Yet hood, yet proper. You know,
Right.
It's just something that all mixed together. And so I was like, I want to go to that church. I think that's my pastor. And I met with him and his wife. And he's like, wherever the Lord is leading you. Well, anyway, I finally come. He goes, I have a job for you. I'm like, okay. So I had been an assistant with an entertainment law firm during that 7 years. And I learned everything. I learned from filing to 501c3s to how to construct an email that's business-like, Excel, all the things that you need as a business. I learned in a year. And I love my boss. I'll say his name, Daryl Miller. To this day, I think he's amazing. He's an entertainment lawyer out of this world. He taught me everything I know about business. And so I took that, and my pastor hired me to be over the young ladies at the church as well as his personal assistant. So I'm a teacher. I'm teaching Bible study to these young ladies, and I'm his assistant. So I'm really working. Not really much time to have a love relationship, even though I want one so bad.
Right.
I'm working my butt off, right? And so I'm teaching these young ladies. And so one particular retreat we go to Palm Springs, and I'm talking about love. I'm 25. I'm talking about love. And I'm talking about what love looks like, you know, and what love feels like. And I'm really into it on the Song of Solomon. And one of the girls is like,
right. I got a question.
And I go, yes. And she goes, how you know about love? And I was like, oh, no, I really know about love. So, yeah, you know about love, but you just a little older than us. So how you know about love?
Right.
And I was like, no, I really know. Well, then tell us. And in that moment, I tell my entire story, what I just told you. It was not, you could hear a pin drop.
Right.
They were seated at the edge of their seats, like,
right.
And these are girls from 12 to 17, all in one. And I was very transparent. And so after that, I couldn't get rid of these girls. These girls were staying with me in my hotel room, sleeping on the floor, coming back home in my apartment, sleeping on the floor, asking me all these questions, they're calling me, can you help me with this? My parents are this. I'm in a older relationship. What do I do? Or drugs and all kinds of alcohol, all these things. So I'm having to deal with this, right? But I have the tools to do it. And so my pastor goes, I really want you to make this great. So I want you to, to really do it. So I really do it. We do events, and I teach them how to sew. I teach them how to cook. I take them to Beverly Hills Rodeo Drive. I teach them how to shop. I teach them how to have tea. I teach them
how to be a woman.
Everything.
Well-rounded.
How to have money.
Right.
How to know how to dress on a budget.
Right.
Like go to Ross and be able to get you an interviewing outfit and be right. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Be right. Like have it all together. How to save.
I know you're married now to Dana, who is a wonderful man. You
Yes.
guys have twins.
Yes.
Beautiful twins, a
Thank
boy and
you.
a girl.
Yes.
How did Dana take all of this when this transpired and knowing that this is what you did?
You know what? The thing about Dana, which was really amazing, he didn't even care. He never listens to the whole details of my marriage. And that to me is amazing, because coming out of a marriage and I know you know this because you've been married before too, right?
Yes.
And you have to tell your story, and
Yeah. Where it's almost like are you going to judge me for my situation? Are you going to treat me according to my situation where you're kind of like, okay, what do I share? What do I not?
Right. And younger guys, when I said I was divorced or going through a divorce, because it took a while because he wouldn't sign the papers. So the young guys would like back away, like get ghosts. They wouldn't call me anymore. The older guys, because they've been through a divorce, they have grown because they get it. So they would be like, okay, that's okay. Dana was like, one of the first days I met him, the second time we went out as a group, because I didn't go out with him one-on-one for a minute. He goes, I know you've been divorced. I'm not worried about that. I know you're religious, because he was Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
That's not important to me.
Right.
So I'm looking at him like, what? Like, because all the others, it's like a big deal.
Right,
like,
right.
Why didn't you tell me you were divorced? Or, maybe it was the times, because now I don't think people care at all. But then, they cared. So Dana was like, no, I don't care about that. I just want to get married and have kids. Like, I mean, he was 100% ready, whereas I wasn't.
Right.
But the way that Dana made me love him, because when you see us together, we don't match. Like, I'm not picking him out of a crowd. I'm not,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, when I found that he liked me, I was like, what? Like, I was just like, no. Like, that ain't happening.
Right.
And my girlfriend was like, but he's so successful, him and his brother, and they do all this grassroots basketball. They have partnerships with Adidas and EA Sports and all the gaming, and he has the best parties, the best tickets. And I was looking at her like she was saying, wow. I don't care. Because I looked at this little redhead, overweight, flooding, Ferragamo wearing sport coat, corduroy sport coat. I'm like, are you trying to sell this to me? Because I'm not.
You're not buying it. Right.
I was like, I don't care what he has, what he does.
Right.
Girl, he comes over, was like, takes my phone in my hand, puts his phone number in it. So he has my number, I have his. He calls me on the way home. Like, all I want to do is get married and have kids. I take my mom to lunch every week. I was just looking at the phone like, what is he talking about? He talks so much, Then he's like, I want you, dinner is Tuesday at 7. The attire is this. Don't be late. I was looking at him like, this. After this, I'm like, I went from the meek and mild to, he ain't telling me nothing.
Right.
I will be there late just because you said it.
Right.
And walk in like late, an hour late, and he's furious, and I don't care. Like, I'm sitting down like, hi, everybody. But at this time, it took time to get to this point. Like, I'm not kissing your ass. I'm not. This is it. This is who I am.
Right.
And he loved every bit of it. He wouldn't leave me alone. In fact, I had to tell my girlfriend and tell him to stop calling me, because I was like, okay, tell him that this is not going to work. I don't like him at all, and I don't want to lead him on.
Right.
He stops calling me. Well, one day, I'm back at my pastor's house, and he's like my therapist. Like, everything he told me to do, I did. From not sleeping with anybody until I got married again, which was really good, because I had a clear head. You know what I mean? So I could make good decisions. I couldn't be like, well, this one is, and this one is, I could really I was business minded. So I had all my business. I had Ladylike 501c3 already done. Sacramento, all my paperwork. I've already had events, luncheons. I had already done that. So, and I was a principal. So now I had done my education part. So I'm that person right now.
Right.
It's nobody
can take you away from that situation.
And no one can say that they did it with me. No. This is me and God. This is hard work from where I've come. Absolutely. Right. And I don't look like what I've come, like what I've been through. Right. And so we were sitting down. My pastor goes, hey, what happened to Dana? Because every guy, I would tell him, oh my gosh, I went down the stage. He ain't the one. Or, oh my God, he held my hand. That ain't nothing.
Right.
Or he hasn't called me. He's not going to call you. Like, I even dated a celebrity, and he never put a title on our relationship. And I loved him so much. And I found out he was dating this tennis player on Gossip. And I remember Boston. I called my pastor at 1 o'clock. I told his wife, can I please talk to him? Because, he was the only one, always the one that talked me off the ledge. Right. I'm like, he's dating. And he was like, I told you that. Why are you mad? You're not having sex. Right. He's going to have sex. He didn't make the vow. You did. He was like, And he don't like you like that. I told you, So this time I didn't talk about Dana. He was like, so what happened to Dana? I was like, nothing.
He was on Dana.
Yeah. And I like mentioned Dana. Like he had never even met Dana. I just mentioned him. And he goes, no, I want to talk about Dana. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like getting ready to type the sermon and I have all the stuff in place. And I'm looking at him like, we have work to do. Like, what are you talking about? He goes, tell me about Dana. I go, he's not my type. And I'm just like typing. He's like, what do you mean he's not your type? And I was like, he's not my type. He's like, 'cause he's white? I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, I've been in such diverse places. I mean, I went to Berkeley. Like, that we're very few on a whole campus of many. You have to navigate. You have to know what you're doing. Right? I was like, no. He goes, well, why isn't he your type? And I'm looking at him like, would he stop asking me? And he's old, like my dad's age. So I'm like, I don't know. He's just not my type. He said, well, let's talk about your type. So, okay. He says, your ex-husband was a womanizer and treated you like shit. But that's your type. Then you come home and you date a musician who has a baby mama, 2 kids, and lives with his grandparents. That's your type. Then you date a rapper and you think you're in a monogamous relationship and you find out online that he's dating a tennis player. That's your type. Then after that, you start dating a guy who lives in the Hollywood Hills that has a roommate that's a guy. And you try. I was like, that's judgmental.
Right.
He's like, that's your type. And then I'm like, now I'm ready to go in.
Right.
And he's like, so what did you say? He's not your type? I was like, he's not my type. He said, why don't you try God's type? I was like, God's type? He's Jewish. I'm Christian. He says, Leah, you want God to bless you in this little bitty box that you've created. And he's trying to bless you outside of your box.
Right.
He's trying to blow your mind. Go home and call Dana. We're not working today. It was like, it hit me like this in my chest. Like, he's like, go home. Tell the Lord you're sorry. Because whenever God sends you something and you reject it, it's sin. So go tell him that you're sorry and call Dana. I go home. Dana is very rude. Dana is very like business. Like he's like boom, 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 boom. It's no small talk. Like he's maybe some crass jokes here and there. And so I called Dana and he's like, hello. I said, hi Dana. Who is this? I said, this is Leah. Leah who? I said, Leah, Mina's friend. Oh, let me call you back. And hangs up in my face. And I look up to the sky and I go, I told you I don't like him.
Right.
And as I'm doing that, he's texting me and he goes, why are you calling me now? And I said, because I didn't give us a fair chance. Calls me immediately. Now the ball is in my court. So at every move, my pastor is giving me the game plan. Every move, like from a male perspective.
Right.
Like, no, we're not calling now. He'll wait. Or tell him up front, you've been married, you're not sleeping with him. Tell him up front. Like, so I did that. He didn't care. Oh, sex is not everything. I want to get to know you. I'm looking at him like, I ain't never met somebody.
Right.
Usually when I said that, guys were like, oh my God.
Right.
Or they was looking at it as a challenge. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to get that.
Right.
Then he would pick me up. He wanted to meet my dad. Just like, stuff that.
So it was pretty much things that you didn't think he would be okay with. He was more than okay with.
Way more.
Which led to you guys being together
Well,
ultimately.
no, because I still didn't like him yet. Like, I didn't like him. He was doing everything right. Perfect gentleman, right? The thing that made me love him was when I was getting ready for my luncheon. And I didn't know how to, I still at this point, this is since 2007. So this is 16 years later. I still don't know how to raise money like he does, right? Like I don't
him raising money is a different ball game.
It's a whole different.
Yeah,
it's different. Like, and
yeah.
he knows it. Like he loves it. He loves raising money. And he can, right?
Yeah.
So I'm getting ready for my luncheon, and we're at dinner, and he slips me a check for $1,000. And at the time, that's a lot of money for my foundation. And I slip it back to him. I said, I don't want your money. I want you to teach me what you do.
Right.
And so from that point, he started making meetings for me. Like, he would have me meeting with the president of Nestle, meeting with the president of Farmers, meeting with this president of this bank. And he would tell me what to say. He would tell me what to give them after the meeting. Thank you so much for meeting with me. Like, send an edible arrangement or something. I did everything. I'm a good student. Like, I listen well. So I did everything he said. And every time it was a check, it was something. And so that's what made me love him. It was that he single-handedly helped me become the businesswoman that I am. And he was happy doing it. Like, he loved to make me shine. He loved that I was successful. You know, he packed out the luncheon. I mean, it was so packed. They ran out of food. We had to serve salads. He was like, doesn't matter. This is what we do, you know.
Right.
He gets up. He raises the money. Like, no, we need people to give more than $20. We need $100. Come on, I need all these people. Come on down. You see what she's doing. You see the girls. And then every year, like that to me, because for my ex-husband who didn't want to own up to me, who didn't want to help me, who didn't want, who wanted to hide me, my talents. I didn't even tell you, he didn't want me to talk. He didn't want me to sing. He didn't want me to do anything, any of the talents that I have. Didn't want me to do anything, right? I mean, I remember one time he told me that I was laughing too much. Like, I was like, I'm laughing too much. Whereas Daniel's like, laugh, right, right. She's singing. Wait, let me get my phone. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything, he was making sure that he was there and making me shine. And so that is what made me love him. That's what made me think that he's so cute. That's what made me think that he's such a great person. Absolutely. That he has a great heart. And then when it came to religion, I shouldn't say religion, but my relationship with God, because he asked me to marry him and I wouldn't, because I didn't want my household to be split. You know what I'm saying? I wanted us to be in the same direction. And if that meant that we were not to be together, then we were not to be together. And one day he just said, no, I want to accept Jesus to be my savior. And I was like, and he literally went against his whole family and walked down the aisle of a Baptist church in South Central and gave his life to the Lord and got baptized. And so, in the whole testimony, I mean, he didn't know how to pray. Now he leads our prayer. Like things like that show me that he's my person. He's the one that God had destined for me to be with. But I would never appreciate him unless I had gone through all of that.
Absolutely.
So I talk about that to the girls. I'm like, usually the guy that you end up with is nobody that you really think you're going to end up with, but it's somebody who's just for you. And they're like, yeah, right. I'm like, I'm serious.
I'm standing here, a living testimony telling you about my journey.
Yes. And you're going to get it.
Absolutely.
You just have to be open-minded and give people a chance. Like, give the nice guy a chance.
Absolutely. And then the nice guy finishes last. And that's exactly what it is.
Always.
He actually finishes. And that's what people need to understand.
Right.
He finishes.
The nice guy.
Absolutely.
He does what he says.
Absolutely.
And
you don't have to pull it and pull it and pull it and pull it and pull it.
No, I mean, from begging this person to marry me to him, I would hear about proposals and I'd be like, tell him not to do it this weekend. I mean, I would literally
complete
have
opposite
a block
shift.
stop. Because it was like, he asked me to marry him 7 months after we met. And so I was like, no. This is way too fast,
Absolutely.
But so love that. So basically that's what Ladylike is all. I'm like the living testimony of what Ladylike is all about.
I love that. So for everyone that comes on, we play this game.
Okay.
Super easy, super fun. I play with you. So we're it's Would You Rather, game of Would You Rather.
Okay.
We're gonna pick 4 cards each.
Okay.
We're gonna ask each other a set of cards.
All right.
Would you do what's on this card or would you do what's on that card?
Okay, 4 cards.
Yes.
Okay.
Rules of the game, so you can't remix the question. You have to answer, but you can give an explanation as to why you answered the way you did.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I'll go first.
Okay, 2 and 2, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you rather have a head the size of a tennis ball or attempt to clear a 50-foot jump on a motorcycle with no training or experience?
Attempt to
clear a 50-foot jump on a motorcycle with no training or experience.
The motorcycle.
Same. That's a one and done. The tennis ball, you gotta walk around with a head this big.
Nuh-uh. I'm like, where's your brain?
Right.
Okay. Would you rather have all your clothes be 2 sizes too small or tickle whoever in front of you every time you're waiting in line for more than 1 minute. That's funny.
I would rather tickle.
That's funny.
I mean, I just, it too small is gonna be too tight, and then you're gonna have all the guts hanging out the sides, and don't nobody want to see all that. So
no.
I'm gonna just tickle, and I'm gonna just be like, I'm sorry, it's just a habit.
Right,
I don't know how to
sorry.
explain it, but
it's Tourette's or something. Right?
That's what it is. Okay. Last but not least, would you rather wear a neck brace for the rest of your life or drop 100-pound barbell on your foot?
What did you say? The first one was what?
Wear a neck brace.
I wear a neck brace
because
because that on your foot, you're gonna break. Oh, the rest of your life.
I would do the barbell one and done. Break my foot. Go
I
to the
guess
doctor.
we can go and get it fixed.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
It would hurt.
It really
one
would.
and done.
100. Oh my god! I guess
The neck brace though, all your life. You're over here like this. Your whole
like,
body.
were you in an accident?
Right.
Were you in an accident?
All my life I've been in an accident.
No, I'm straightening my position. I'm making my posture good.
Right.
Okay. Would you rather look 20 years older than you are or have a chronic runny nose?
Ooh, I hate a snotty nose. I hate it on children. I hate it on adults.
too.
I hate it when I get sick. What was the other one?
20 years older than what you look now.
I feel like if you take care of yourself
Absolutely.
and you're gracious and you live a good, healthy life, I feel like I could age like wine and
absolutely.
be fine over time. So I'm going to take the 20 years.
Yeah, me too. Because in 20 years older, we could go get a facelift.
I'm telling you.
We could go get some more.
And I know the best surgeons. Tell everybody where they can find you. If you want to, okay, I'll let you do it. Tell everybody where they could find you,
Okay.
where they can participate in Ladylike if
Okay.
they want to be a part, what you have coming up, all that good stuff.
Okay. You can find me on www.theladylike.com. Please put the first, because if you put the ladylike, you're going to get something that is not ladylike. And on socials, I am Leah Ladylike, Leah_Ladylike on Instagram, Leah_Ladylike on TikTok, and Leah Walker Pump on Facebook. Those of you who do that. You Are a True Lady on X, formerly Twitter. And I have a big event coming up this weekend. It's Ladylike Day at UCLA, where I have over 300 girls. You came last year to be on the panel. And they are participating in STEM and financial literacy, health and wellness, in modeling, fashion, makeup, hip hop, and we got to put that in there because they wouldn't come if you didn't have the fun stuff, right? Because they're like STEM, But it's really, really fun, and so it's for free. We're sponsoring everyone. We have Chick-fil-A for lunch, and breakfast, and all the good stuff. Great goodies. Adidas sent us a lot of stuff for the girls, and it's going to be a good time. This is our 9th year doing it, actually, at UCLA. The Women in Engineering sponsor it, give us all the lecture halls and everything. So please come on out, ages 12 to 17 girls, and you'll have a good time this Saturday, the 16th of December.
Make sure you guys tune into Leah on Instagram, Facebook. Make sure you guys check out Ladylike this Saturday's event at UCLA. 12 to 17-year-old girls come. Please. Adults, bring your kids. Drop them off. Have them learn a very beautiful program that Leah does. And this is her 9th year. I continue to get blessed with many more years to come.
Thank you so much.
And that is it for Telli Talks.